All right, today we're going to go deep inside a modern ship's bridge and really take a look at its navigation system. But we're not just going to see it as a tool. Guided by some great insights from Captain Crewvn, we're going to understand it as a complete, interconnected system. Yeah, basically the ship's central brain.
You're looking at the Electronic Chart Display and Information System, or ECDIS. And you know, Captain Crewvn just nails it when he says, "This is the brain of your ship." It really is. It's the central processor on the bridge, the one place where all that critical navigation info comes together.
But here's the thing, and this is the crucial question every single officer needs to be asking themselves. What happens when that brain is fed bad information? This one question, it gets right to the heart of system reliability and explains exactly why a navigator's vigilance is more important now than ever before. So let's start by really understanding that brain. The ECDIS might be the star of the show, but it absolutely does not work alone. It's really the core of a much larger, way more complex system. You see, while the ECDS is definitely the central unit, it's not a standalone device, not even close. To give you that crystal clear picture of where you are and where you're going, it totally depends on a constant stream of data from a whole suite of different sensors. Which, brings us perfectly to our next point. If the ECDIS is the brain, well then all of those sensors are its senses. So let's break them down and see what they are and what they actually do. Okay, first up, the big one, the most fundamental sense of them all, the GPS. This is what tells the ECDIS where the ship is in the world, its latitude and longitude. It's the absolute starting point for everything else. But, a position by itself is, well, it's just a dot on a screen, right? That's where the gyro compass comes in. It provides the ship's heading, turning that static little dot into a vessel with purpose, with direction. Now we know where we are and which way we're pointing. All right, next up, we need some motion. That's the speed log. It measures the ship's speed through the water. And this data point is absolutely crucial, not just for knowing how fast we're going right now, but for predicting future positions and calculating our arrival times. And of course, a ship is rarely alone out there at sea. The AIS, or Automatic Identification System, is kind of like the system's ears. It receives data from other vessels, their position, their heading, their speed, and it plots them right onto our chart as targets, building up our situational awareness. But what about the stuff AIS can't see, like small boats, or bad weather, or the coastline itself? That's where radar comes in. The ARPA system overlays a live radar image and tracks targets, adding this powerful, totally independent layer of perception. It's a perfect illustration of how multiple senses build a complete picture. So, we've got the brain, and we've got its senses. But how in the world do they all talk to each other? Let's move on to the physical connections and see how this whole thing gets wired together on a modern bridge. So, basically, there are two main ways this happens. Over on the left, you've got a super simple cross-cable connection. That's just a direct link between the ECDIS and maybe one PC. It's really just for maintenance or simple updates. But on the right, that's the modern standard, a hub connection. Here, everything, the ECDIS, the radar, PCs, the voyage data recorder, it all plugs into a common network. This allows them all to share data seamlessly. This is the setup you're going to find on most ships today. Okay, so we have the brain, its senses, and the network connecting them all. Understanding this brings us to the most critical part of our entire discussion, the single most important rule for any modern navigator. So just think about it for a second. You have all this data flowing from the GPS, gyro, AIS, radar. It's all feeding this one central brain. With all of that technology, what is the single most important rule that you absolutely must follow? And here is the answer, a principle that should be etched into the mind of every single watchkeeper. Always, always cross-check information from multiple sources. Never place absolute trust in one device. And why? Because just like the captain says, if one of the system's senses provides bad information, the brain is going to make a wrong judgment. Your vigilance is the final and frankly the most important safety check there is. This understanding isn't just some theoretical exercise. It actually changes how you approach problems on the bridge. It means you start thinking less like a user and more like a technician. Let's take a common real-world scenario. You're on watch and you suddenly notice your AIS targets are missing from the ECDIS display. What's your first thought? What do? Well, instead of panicking or just immediately calling for help, you can now think through the system.
Step 1. Think about the physical connection. We just saw how everything is connected to a network hub. Could a cable simply be loose? Step 2. Think about the network itself. Could there be a simple IP setting issue that's stopping the AIS unit from talking to the ECDIS? This is proactive problem solving.
And what this does is it creates a fundamental shift in your mindset. This basic knowledge of how the system is put together, it elevates you. You're no longer just a user pushing buttons. You actually become a proactive system manager, someone who's capable of managing the very tools you rely on. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Your navigation system, this brain with all of its senses, is constantly talking. It's sending a flood of information not just about the outside world, but about its own health and its own connections. So the real question is, are you truly listening to everything it has to say?